Welcome to the Selling from the Heart podcast on the From the Heart Business Network. You've joined a global movement of sales professionals who are dedicated to being authentic and building trust. We call it Selling from the Heart. Together, we're on a mission to bring sincerity and substance to the sales profession we all love. Get ready to be inspired and equipped as we join our hosts, Larry Levine and Darrell Amy.
If you're a high-performing salesperson, you know your time is your most valuable asset. So why waste it on tasks that someone else could handle even better? That's where our friends at Work Better Now come in.
Work Better Now virtual assistants are specially trained to help sales professionals like you fully leverage your time. Imagine offloading administrative work, calendar management, data entry, and follow-ups so you can focus on what you do best, building relationships and closing deals.
With a dedicated assistant at your side, you'll have the bandwidth to grow your pipeline, strengthen client connections, and crush your sales goals.
It's simple. Free up your time, maximize your impact. Let Work Better Now help you work smarter, not harder. Your sales career deserves this game-changing advantage.
Visit workbetternow.com today to learn more and get started, because your time isn't just money, it's everything. Hello, and welcome back to the Selling from the Heart podcast. Your co-host, Darrell Amy, here today with Larry Levine. What's going on, Larry?
Another great day in the Selling from the Heart studio. I am so fired up for this conversation, Darrell Amy.
You're going to leave here today with habits of high performance. I can't wait for you to meet our friend, James Laughlin. Larry, great things going on all over the Selling from the Heart community as we have stepped boldly into 2026. It's so fun to get to know our friends all around the world.
You know, absolutely. So I have to give a special shout out because Damon Lemby's near and dear to us. Everybody knows Damon Lemby, but James is a special connection because Damon introduced me to James. That's why I just got to give a special shout out. Damon Lemby, I love you, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So cool. Well, hey, let's dive in because today is going to be an incredible conversation. Our guest today understands what it takes to win under pressure, on the biggest stages, and over the long haul. James Laughlin is a globally recognized high-performance leadership strategist and the best-selling author of Habits of High Performers. He's also a 7-time world champion musician. James has worked with everyone from PGA Tour professionals and elite athletes to Fortune 500 CEOs, helping leaders and teams build the habits, mindset, and resilience required to perform at the highest levels consistently. You know, what makes James unique is his ability to translate world-class performance principles into practical frameworks leaders and sales professionals can apply immediately. And he's going to coach us on it here today. James, welcome to Selling from the Heart. It's awesome to have you here.
Fantastic to be here. Top of the morning to you both.
We're
so
excited. Hey, as we get started, you know the question, James, that every guest on the Selling from the Heart podcast answers. Even the ones from the South Island in New Zealand have to answer this question. What does it mean to you to sell from the heart?
Look, I've coached elite athletes, people in business and politics. And what I see is this: people don't struggle because they don't know what to say. They generally struggle because they don't fully trust who they are. And when their identity is solid, they know who they are, that alignment and selling is it's a consequence of that. So to me, it's about getting to know who you are, fully trusting that, and what comes from the heart lands in the heart.
Oh, this is so good. And I've had the privilege of James and I've had some really good in-depth conversations. You got to expand on this a little bit more because some people are afraid to go there, which I think prevents them from selling or leading from the heart. So you got to unpack this a little bit more, please.
Yeah, totally. So look, I would say 60 to 70% of the people I've worked with at the very elite leadership level have been male. And whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know. But they struggle way more than females to tap into their emotion, to be vulnerable. You know, when I'm speaking to audiences, and maybe this year I've spoke to a couple 100,000 people, if I ask a question, 99% of the time, guess who's the first person to put their hand up and be the first person to break silence? Female. Rarely a male. us males are very concerned about how we appear. We're very concerned about what people think about us. We need to tap into this emotion and be willing to be vulnerable. And to me, that's courageous and that is strength. And Larry, I think that's something that we have struggled with for decades, probably millennia. But with podcasts like this, it gives us permission as men to go, we can be vulnerable and we can sell from the heart and less of this kind of mental stuff and get more into the heart set.
Yeah. So why do you think vulnerability is such a crucial aspect as we talk here today about habits, high performance? By the way, congratulations on the book. Links in the show notes. Grab this one. It's just now available in the United States. We're so excited about this gift. But why do you think that vulnerability is such a crucial aspect of high performance? Because I think a lot of us think, oh, high performance, just like, got it out. Let's go. Why is vulnerability so essential?
Look, vulnerability lets other people in. And often when high performers are at the top of their game, it's a very, very lonely place. I don't know about you guys. I'm sure you've heard this before, but lots of the CEOs I work with will say, it's lonely at the top. And I often say to them, well, that's ridiculous. You're clearly leading in a ridiculous way, because if you were leading a team, you wouldn't be sitting on, in your corner office with the door closed. You'd be out amongst your people, shoulder to shoulder, belly to belly. It wouldn't be lonely. And so I think for leaders, showing vulnerability, showing their failures, showing what's happening off field at home, to me, that vulnerability lets people in. It's going to be less lonely. It's going to be more of a team effort. And then they will also open up. If you're leading a team of people, or if you're trying to influence a customer, leading with vulnerability allows them in. And that's where we build connection.
Oh, I'm so glad you brought up connection, because I'm sitting here listening to what you're saying. I go, this is what it builds. It builds connection, it builds trust, and it builds relatability.
100%. And it's interesting. I often get asked by organizations to go, hey, we want to have a high performance culture. I'm like, cool. Can I spend a couple of days with your people? Just walk around the organization, meet your people, and then I'll give you some feedback before we get started. And often where there's low performance, there's low trust. And so the first thing I talk about is how do we build trust? Because when there's high trust, there's generally a correlation between that and high performance.
Well, and then you take that into just the world of sales that all of our listeners live in. And, trust, oh my goodness, trust is a currency of sales, as we've said over and over again. And no surprise, trust is at an all-time low with rampant skepticism, especially of salespeople and politicians and, all of us that seem to crowd at the bottom of the trust list. So as a high performer, vulnerability, what else is essential in the ingredients of building trust and sustaining it?
Look, one of the things I share with people around building trust is sharing stories. And I'll always ask people, whether it's a small group or a large audience, hands up who's a storyteller. And maybe one or two of them will put their hands up. And I'll say, guys, if I was to give you a bottle of wine, you were to drink that, I guarantee about 100% more of you would put your hand up going, I'm a storyteller. We all like to spin yarns, right? When we've had a few drinks. So that to me is how we build trust, because every listener right now, I could almost guarantee on your show has not heard of me. I'm a random Irish guy from New Zealand, and they're going, who's this guy? The only way they're going to build trust with me is understanding who I am, where I've came from, a bit of my story, because shared stories, shared strength. And that to me, that's the best way to build trust, is to actually share stories about what we're trying to achieve and where we're headed.
Okay, so you got to tell the story. So how do you go from being a world-class musician to now writing a book around high performance?
Yeah, no, good question. So I came to New Zealand 20 years ago. I was 19, and my mission was to help a team here in New Zealand become the very first world champions from New Zealand. The Australians had beat them to it. The Americans had beat them to it. The Kiwis couldn't figure it out. And so my mission was to come down and help them do that. It took 8 years. We developed skill set, and they came third. Then I developed mindset with them, and they came fifth. It was getting worse. And I came back and I said, yeah, they're looking at this crazy Irish guy going, what the hell is he doing? He's teaching us the wrong way. And I'm going, what was missing? And they said, we don't think we can beat the best at their own game. The big dogs, we can't beat them. Ooh. And so it was heart set was missing. So I stopped teaching drums and I started telling stories and got them out of their heads and into their hearts. They went and became the first and still the only world champions from New Zealand. And that's not my secret sauce. That's the fact that those three ingredients were present: skill set, mindset, and heart set. And at the end of that journey, I got a little bit curious as to, could I test this in sport? Could I test this in business and politics? And so I just started gently stepping into those fields and asking questions and being curious, like you guys, meeting great people, asking them questions. That led to some opportunities very organically. Started working with one of New Zealand's top rugby teams. Rugby's a crazy, huge sport here. And that led to opportunities with corporates and businesses, then coaching leaders of the country. And that started to expand to the army and corporates overseas, and weird places like Antarctica. So it's honestly been quite an organic journey.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, hey, thank you for putting all this together in a book. So tell us about the book. Like I know, once again, this is Habits of High Performers. Who in our audience is not going to want to grab a copy of this book right now? What as a sales professional and the sales leaders listening in, can we expect when we get to crack open this beautiful thing you've put together for us?
Yeah, well, the interesting thing when people think of high performance, they think of hustle and grind. I'm here to say that this book is not for the person who thinks they've got to do 100 hours a week. I believe high performance is not a birthright. It's not hustle. It's not luck. High performance is simply a byproduct of great habits. So this takes the individual or the team through the 7 habits of high performance based on work I've done myself, work with teams, with governments, armies. But it brings it back to one simple thing. How do we thrive in life and work? That's the key. It's not one or the other. I see lots of high performers who are making a lot of money. I see lots of high performers who are winning world tennis championships. But very few of them are focusing on the off-field component of their lives. That's where this book is different. How do we thrive in both fields, off-field and on-field? And so it's a very simple journey of how do we implement what's in the book and integrate it into our lives. And most books are self-help books, as you know. They don't end up doing much good. This book's different in that there's a playbook built into it, like do the work as you're going through the book.
Love it.
Hey, James, can you speak to this off-field aspect of this? What are you finding out that's helping these people when you talk about off-field?
Yeah. So I guess we should define high performance, because every person who's selling, or anybody that's got a team on here that's selling, we all want to be known as high performers. We don't want to be known as mediocre, right? So what's the definition? It's consistently exceeding norms whilst maintaining healthy relationships and well-being. That last part of the sentence probably didn't exist 15, 20 years ago. It was just winning, make more money, move forward. Who cares how you feel? Who cares what your marriage is doing? But true holistic high performance is being able to consistently exceed those norms over the long term whilst maintaining healthy relationships and well-being. So it's actually having tools, Larry, and practices to reflect, to slow down, to ask yourself, WMI? What's most important? And am I making time for WMI in my life? And most people are too busy being busy to actually ask those important questions until it's too late.
7 habits of high performance. So what are some of them? What are some of the most essential ones that we need to be thinking about?
Yeah, let's look at 2. So first would be get radically clear. That's the first habit of high performers. They are radically clear on what success looks like. They're able to verbalize it. They're able to depict it. They're able to share it with stories. It's very clear to them. Most people, when I ask them what they want, I'm sure you find the same. They go, when someone starts with they have no clue.
So right. There's your hint. The is at the beginning of your clarity statement.
Yeah, you're in trouble, right?
Right.
So get radically clear. I had a young guy come to me and said, James, can you be my coach? I said, I could be, yeah. He says, look, can we meet next week? I was like, sure. So I send the invoice. He sends the payment. We meet up. First question, what do you want? And he goes, it's great. I'll see you next week. I says, what? We're like 3 seconds in, right? And he goes, what do you mean? I was like, well, you don't know what you want. Let's not waste your time. I'll see you next week. He says, James, I've paid you a small fortune. We're 3 seconds in. I'd like the rest of the hour. I was like, well, it's not going to happen. I'll refund you and I'll see you next week. So he goes away, comes back the following week. And I says, what do you want? And he looks me in the eye, pauses. I want to become the greatest All Black rugby player of all time. I was like, okay, cool. So the All Blacks is our national team here in New Zealand. Mm-hmm. And I says, second question. There's only 3 questions, then we're done for the day. Why do you want it so badly? He says, for my grandfather. He was an All Black. Great. Third question. How much are you willing to suffer to get there? And he goes, whoa, that's an awful question. I was like, well, if you don't want to suffer, you could always go and play for the Australian team. But if you want to play for the best, you've got to be willing to suffer. So he was very clear on what he wanted. He became an All Black very shortly thereafter. Mm-hmm. But radical clarity was the key. If he stayed on he'd be a good provincial player the rest of his life. He'd never be a national, international debut. So us folk in business and sales need to do the same thing. The second one is that, Larry, Darrell, you're both full of BS. Belief systems. Before you guys kick me off the call. So that's the second habit. Supercharge your belief systems. And when we look at a model, we all want to have these behaviors, and we get these amazing tools and AI and CRMs to be better at sales. It should never start there. If you look at the psychological model, BAB, your beliefs influence your attitude, and your attitude dictates your behaviors. And so all starts with beliefs. So I always challenge people in sales, people in leadership. What do you believe about failure? That's where I start. What do you believe about money? If you can get those 2 things and rewire them to set you up for success, you'll be unstoppable in the sales sense.
This is what I was thinking about just now. There's probably, and you're more equipped to go down this road, there's probably eternal beliefs and there's external beliefs, and they both probably intertwine. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, when you look at how beliefs are shaped, so a belief is simply something that has been repeated to us over and over, or we repeat to ourselves over and over. And if we do that long enough, it becomes a belief. And often there's no physical evidence that this thing exists. So a lot of people have beliefs in different things. For a lot of kids, it's Santa, right? But there's no definitive physical evidence. They don't see him coming down the chimney, but there's deep belief. And of course, we see it in religion, and we see it in business and in relationships. I believe this is the person I want to be with. So beliefs are interesting in that we form them through being repeated to over and over. We can shape those, Larry, and reshape them. We can rewire them. We can take a belief like Santa and change it in a second. And all of a sudden, we have a very different belief around who brings our presents. And for those kids out there that are listening, we know Santa's real. But someone's sitting in the car right now with their kids, right? Right. So beliefs are shaped by us and by others around us. But it's our perception that really allows us to take things to the next level. Your perception shapes your reality.
Well, this is one thing we have definitely noticed in the sales profession is you can do all the training in the world. You could train and train and train again and have the best trainers in there. But if you don't change your mindset, at the end of the day, not much is going to happen. And I think the wake-up call for individuals as well as companies is, yes, we do need to train on skill set, but until we address the mindset issues, we're really not going to get that far. And this is something we've discovered in sales development that I think is an absolute game changer. And I'm curious, what you've where you've seen this played out in stories and sports and other high performance areas you've been working in.
Yeah, look, mindset's interesting. We should define it because people throw the word around a lot. But what is mindset? So mindset simply is a set of beliefs that shape how you make sense of the world around you. And so if you've got a mindset of money is scarce, then of course it's going to be difficult. Of course, you're going to be a little bit fearful of making that cold call. And so really looking at what those beliefs are and how they help us shape and make sense of the world around us, that's super key. Look, I say it in sport a lot. Mindset literally dictates the outcome. And in sport as a teenager, often it's the biggest, most physical players that win. But when we get to 18, 19, 20, everyone's big. Everyone's physically got the skills. So it comes down to this top 2 inches. Who's got the mindset that under pressure they can perform? But the thing is that most people, Darrell, think that mindset's soft. It's a real soft thing. Whereas I would say that the soft thing is the hard thing. It's very difficult to do, but it's crucial to success. So for a lot of my athletes, let's say we get to halftime and they're getting smashed by the opposition. It's the equivalent to a salesperson getting halfway through the year and they've not even got a quarter of the way to their target. You can give up, you can beat yourself up. The market's crap, the company's crap, the CRM's crap. I mean, I've heard it all, right? But how much time are you investing in the top 2 inches? And so asking questions rather than being furious about the situation, be curious about the situation. So at halftime when I'm working with players and they're significantly behind the 8 ball, say, what needs to happen to move the ball forward slightly? What would success look like 2 minutes into the second half? How do you want to feel full time? What are you going to say to your child and your partner at the end of the game about how you delivered? Rather than screaming at them and swear words and profanities, that stuff doesn't work. It's like we need to get into their hearts, out of their heads and into their hearts, because that's what drives performance. So the salesperson that's halfway through their sales year, that's struggling, or they're 2 or 3 months in, you've got to address the mindset, and using good questioning is going to help them unlock the mindset they need to get the results they want.
Okay, so let's continue to go down that road. So we have listeners, sales professionals, sales leaders, even C-level executives that are watching or listening to Selling from the Heart. They go, man, my mindset's just wonky, right? It's just out of whack. What are some things, just some simple 1 or 2 or 3 steps somebody can do early in the morning to unlock some of this, to start going down this road of reshaping or retooling their mindset?
Yeah, great question. First thing, can we challenge them to reword it from mindset to mind flex? Right. And what I mean by that is we don't have a fixed mindset. We have the ability, every single one of us, to change our mind, and that it should be flexible. So let's just all of us agree from here. It's flexible. It's mind flex, not mind set. And a couple of questions I would ask every leader I work with to answer in the morning. What went well yesterday? What didn't go so well yesterday? What would 1% better look like today? So those 3 questions are simple. I mean, they're common sense, but they're rarely common practice. Ask those 3 questions.
Beautiful. Beautiful. It's just the flex. I got to just think, I'm blown away here. I'm just lost in mind flex, heart flex, and skill flex. And I think this, if you think about as leaders, we think we're, or individual, we're stuck. We're set in our ways. We hear this all the time. My people are set in their ways. Can we, maybe the first decision and the first commitment out of all of this, and it's one of my biggest takeaways from this conversation today, is can we just flex? Can we go, you know what? Can we move to a growth mode? Can we move to saying skill set, mindset, heart set? Now, flex. Let's flex. And if we can get there as individuals and as leaders, bring our team to the place of saying, we're getting rid of set from our vocabulary. Like, I see a ton of upside just from that perspective itself.
100%. And I mean, I think about a very interesting experience. So the government connected with me to ask me to go down to the ice, so the 7th continent of the world, Antarctica, with a very particular mission. And this is where mind flex was crucial. So Scott Base is right beside the American base, McMurdo. Scott Base is New Zealand's base. And there's 140 people there during summer. It goes down to 12 people in winter. 12 people, wow. 9 months, dark outside for 24 hours a day, right? They don't see the sun. They're stuck in this base, minus 57 it gets down to, winds rip through. It's a pretty interesting existence. My challenge was, how do I work with that team at the end of summer, right before the winter kicks in? So I go down to the ice, and my whole focus is, how do I understand these people and their mindsets? And how do I make sure that 3 or 4 months in, when someone puts the teaspoon in the wrong drawer, someone doesn't flip off and want to murder the other person, right? I kid you not.
Yeah.
If you look up, Google South African Antarctic Base 2025, I promise you will see a story that will frighten you, where one person did want to do something like that. And it was very scary because on the ice, there's no police, there's no army, there's nobody coming to help you. You can't run away because you will die very quickly in that weather. So for me, it was about how do I set this example of mind flex as an opportunity. So the one thing we all talked about was let's be possibilitarians. Let's look through the lens of what's possible. So when the problems come up, problems present possibilities. And that shifted everything. They had an amazing winter. I can't take all the credit for that. They had a great leader down there and they had a phenomenal winter. They came away still liking each other. Success. That's what we want in our teams, right?
I'm with Darrell. I'm still blown away on this whole
speechless today. This didn't happen very often.
No, it doesn't. But it's just how, because James, we live in the sales space. I mean, we just geek out on all this stuff. But there's how many times in a given day do we hear complacency, right? And we hear this, our people are dead set. You're not going to change their mindset. You're not going to change their heart set on any of this. You just given me some whole new ways of really approaching all of this.
That's awesome. I'm glad. I'm excited to see that unfold in 2026.
Yeah. So we are excited that this book has finally made it to the United States, and Habits of High Performers. You can grab it. Links in the show notes, wherever fine books are sold. What's your favorite part of this whole book? Like, what's the one thing you can't wait? We're just going to totally tease people here. The chapter that they're just going to absolutely love.
High performers are hormonal. That's the one you've got to tune into.
Okay. There we go. All right.
Oh, man.
Absolutely. You got to buy the book. You got to buy the book. Hey, James, thank you so much for sharing your heart with us today. Thank you for writing the book. Thank you for being a champion of selling from the heart. We really appreciate you.
I love you guys. Wish you all the best. And to the listener, get out there and lead your life on purpose in 2026.
Awesome.
You're a rock star.
Awesome. Mind flex, Larry. Heart flex, skill flex. Boy, what great wisdom and words. I can't wait for everyone to dive into this book. And I know a lot of great, not only conversation, but action is going to happen out of it. So profoundly grateful to get to share time with James today.
You know what? It sure does give a whole new perspective. I'm looking at this going, man, can we just unlock and just stop using this word set, right? I've got another one. I'm dead set, right?
Right. Well, yeah, you're dead.
Right,
set,
you're dead, right? It's like using
Absolutely.
but it's like, can we be a lot more flexible in our thinking? What would happen?
Absolutely. Well, hey, thank you for joining us today. Thank you to everybody who's liking and sharing the podcast. This global network of sales professionals dedicated to being genuine, authentic, building trust, all these aspects of selling from the heart, it continues to grow. And it's because of you. And so we are, I was going to say we are dead set. We are dead flexed, live flexed on bringing you great guests throughout this year. So make sure to stay tuned. And please, thank you to everybody for sharing this with your friends, your coworkers, and your clients. Larry, what a great conversation today. And I have a feeling we're going to be talking about James for some time to come here.
Absolutely. And we've said this year over year on the Selling from the Heart podcast. It's our mission here at Selling from the Heart. We want to bring you fresh voices, new ideas, new insights, all to do one thing, challenge you to think a little bit different about your approach, whether that be to leadership or sales.
I love it. Well, thanks for joining us today. Until next time, keep being genuine, keep being authentic, keep building trust, develop the habits of high performance, and most of all,
sell from the heart.